Welcome to the CGWare Study Labs thesis preparation video. In this video we are going to talk about references. So your thesis is supported by different references. This is very important for your thesis. You need to rely on scientific papers or books or other strong references. Your thesis is kind of like an object that is supported by those references. If you don't have strong quality references, well, then your thesis is basically falling down and is flat on the ground and is not supported, so then it's kind of a weak thesis. Using strong references gives your thesis credibility and strong support. It also shows that you have actually studied the field that you're writing your thesis in. Now, where to find those scientific papers? I would recommend Google Scholar. So you go to scholar.google.com. Now, there are of course other places. You can go directly to scientific journals and search for there, and that's also useful. If you know the area that, let's say, it's computer graphics, you go to the ACM Transactions on Graphics journal and you search directly from there. However, Google Scholar kind of searches from all of those journals. So if you write your query into Google Scholar, it should give you the results from these different scientific journals without you having to go explicitly to each of them. And this is also the reason why you should use Google Scholar, not regular Google, because Google Scholar actually gives you the scientific papers or books, and regular Google will give you everything, different blog posts, different Wikipedia articles, and all sorts of things. And then finding those strong references from your regular Google search is going to be extremely difficult, and you probably won't find many of the good supports that you need. So go to Google Scholar and search from there. Now, Google Scholar is also different from your regular Google because the useful paper that you're looking for might be on page 10 or even further away. So with your regular Google, you probably find the result you're looking for as the first or second or third result. But with Google Scholar, you really have to go through those pages, read the titles, abstracts, and see if those results are really what you're looking for or are they something else. If you're accustomed to finding the results on the first page, then this is not the way to go here. The way to go is you go through the search results and you go through many pages of those search results. Another type of strong reference is a book. So I would recommend you to go to the actual library in Delta or to the main library, because when else are you going to enjoy the library if not for finishing your studies? Of course, you should, before going to the actual library, search what books do they have in the library and if some of those books are something that would benefit your thesis. But going to the library and actually reading through the book and gathering the knowledge from there is quite beneficial for you and your thesis. You can also use the O'Reilly's online library. So the University of Tartu gives you access to the O'Reilly library, and a lot of the books are also available in the digital format in the O'Reilly library. And actually the University of Tartu library avoids ordering the physical copies of books if they can be made available online in the O'Reilly library. So go to o'reilly.com/library access and use your ut.ee email to get in. And once you're in, you can search for the field or topic area that your thesis is about and find lots of different books that you can start reading online. Another place to find books is of course the CGWare Study Lab. So go to the actual lab in Delta to room 2007. There's 2 shelves full of books and you might be able to find some very useful books from there. For example, if you're making a video game for your thesis, then The Art of Game Design is most likely the book you definitely want to read. Or if you're making a virtual reality game, the VR book would be the book to read. If you're doing something with computer graphics, then maybe the fundamentals of computer graphics, or maybe physically based rendering, or there's a bunch of other computer graphics books as well. If you're programming games, maybe the Game Programming Gem series would be very beneficial for you. So go to the lab. As a student doing a thesis with us, you should have 24/7 access to the lab. Go there, browse some books, just sit down, read, search for the knowledge that is going to be beneficial for you, that you can reference for your thesis. Now at some point you might be in a situation where you have tons of books, tons of papers, and they're all a mess. So you really can't organize all of that in your head, and there's just so many of those papers and books, and there's so much knowledge, and even a list in Google Docs isn't going to help you anymore. then what I suggest is for you to use Zotero. So Zotero is a software that helps you collect and manage your sources. In Zotero, you can make different folders for, let's say, good papers, and you can make a note that especially this one is very good. This is what you want to cite most often in your thesis. There might be some poor papers, so you have found some papers, but maybe you can cite them somewhere, but they're not really that beneficial. You can cite them as, look, someone else has tried to do something, but that really isn't what we are trying to make. You can also categorize some useful books there. So maybe this book has a good chapter 2. So you can make a note that, look, chapter 2 has this thing, let's cite it where I talk about game design. And later on, when you're writing about game design, you look in Zotero and see, okay, look, this is the book I wanted to cite for game design, so I'm gonna cite it over here. The Zotero desktop app looks sort of like this. So you have some folders, you can make subfolders, you can make different categorizations here, and you have your saved sources. And one benefit of Zotero is that it also saves, or at least tries to find and save, the metadata automatically. For example, here I have this paper and it's a journal article, it has a title, it has authors, it's the journal is published in, some volumes, pages, dates, language, the DOI link, and all sorts of metadata. So when I'm saving this source to Zotero, Zotero automatically tries to fill this in. It doesn't always work, so sometimes you have to manually fill this in, but the benefit is that later on, when you're formatting your actual fair copy and you're trying to format the references section, then Zotero can do it automatically based on the data it has collected or you have entered in the desktop app. How it works is that Zotero actually has 3 different components. You have the desktop app, so this holds your database of your sources. This is what we saw on this slide. So we have our folders, our saved sources, our source metadata. It can also be synced across different computers, so you can make an account and it will sync the list of your sources, also their PDF files across different computers. Now, one of the other parts of Zotero is the Zotero connector. So this is a web browser plugin that allows you to one-click save different sources. So when you first go to Google Scholar, you find some interesting papers, you open them. The link takes you to a scientific journal where the paper is opened. It's the detailed view of the particular paper. And then the Chrome plugin has a small button, Save to Zotero. You click on it and it automatically tries to read the metadata, download the PDF and put it into your list of sources. And that is very efficient, so you don't have to manually start copying all the data into Zotero or worse yet, manually copying all of that metadata into Word or Google Docs later on. Now, Zotero has a third part, it's the Google Docs and Word add-ons. So those allow you to add citations in your thesis draft and later on in your fair copy with one click. So in Docs or in Word, you just say Zotero add citation, you type the author or title or whatever you use to recognize a citation, you press enter, it adds the citation and it creates a bibliography. So with 1 and maybe 2 clicks, you can add your citations to your thesis draft and you can create the references section automatically and it's formatted as it should be. You can also change the citation style. So if you're using the numbered citation style or the style with round brackets and author and year, doesn't really matter. It's one click. You can change it very easily with Zotero. And later on, when you're moving from Google Docs, where your draft is, to Microsoft Word, where you make your fair copy, the final copy that you're going to create a PDF from and submit, then you can use Zotero there as well, and it will easily create you the citations and the references section. But right now, I would suggest you use Zotero to collect those citations and manage them, and this allows you to save time and organize your sources. Now, one thing we really have to talk about is the quality of references. So there are different things you can cite, so different references. And we can distinguish low quality references and medium to high quality references. With low quality references, we will use footnote citation. So when you have a low quality reference, you will just in Google Docs, you can do insert footnote, Microsoft Word, same thing, insert footnote, and you can just paste your link to that reference into the footnote. So this is a footnote reference. And then you have your regular citations, so medium to high quality references, these are basically your regular citations. So whether you use the square bracket citation or the round brackets with last name and year, doesn't really matter, but these are your regular citations and these go to your actual references section. And this is extremely important. Try to distinguish between the low quality and medium to high quality citations, because if you put low quality citations into the actual references section, then your reviewer is going to be quite unhappy and they're gonna say that you have very low quality references. So don't put them there, but use footnote references for the low quality citations. Now, what are those low quality references? Well, like I said, they're just links. So if you want to provide a link somewhere, use a footnote reference. Wikipedia articles. So if you want to cite Wikipedia, use a footnote reference. Product websites. So this is again just a link. You have a link to a product website. You want to say that I'm using Unreal Engine. Unreal Engine's website is over there. You can go there to find more information about Unreal Engine. So you use a footnote reference. Also, forum or Stack Overflow posts. So if you have a technical issue, you Google it, you find a Stack Overflow post or a Reddit post or whatever, and you want to reference that, you use a footnote reference. Insert footnote and you just paste the link into the footnote. Well, AI is not a high quality reference, it's rather a low quality reference. With AI, things can be a bit tricky, and you should refer to the Institute's guidelines document to see how to cite AI. But also, software specifications, API, documentation, manuals, kind of these technical documents. So those are not high quality references. If you are, let's say, implementing in Godot and you want to cite the Godot documentation, then this is a footnote reference. This is not the medium to high quality citation that you would otherwise use. So API, documentation, specifications, all sorts of things like that will go as links to the footnotes. Now, what are those medium to high quality references? So they're kind of like more trustworthy things that have an author. So blog posts from professionals. So if there's a professional who has written a lengthy blog post, how some algorithm is working or some design is working, then I would say that's a medium quality reference. It could also be a YouTube video from a professional author. So someone is talking about game design, this person has a name, so you are citing that video, and that is a medium quality reference, it's authored work. Or some news articles from solid news sources. I would say those are also medium quality references. Now, what are those high quality references? Well, other theses, books, of course, and scientific papers. And you should really find a sufficient number of scientific papers and books that you are citing in your work, because these are high quality references and these help you establish a strong foundation of references, a strong support for your thesis. And it's hard to say how many of these you need to have a strong support. It depends somewhat on the thesis itself and it depends on the sources, but generally speaking, I would say that for a bachelor thesis you would need at least 5 or more. So if you're citing 5 or more scientific papers or books, I would say that's already pretty good. Of course, some might cite 20. It really depends. For a master thesis, I would say you need at least 10 or more. So it really depends. The reviewer is going to look like, are those references, like how are you using them? Are you using them throughout your work? Are they covering enough of the field? So if you're only using one textbook, then maybe the question is, why did you choose that textbook? Why not the other one or the third one that's also very popular? So maybe you want to keep that in mind. Or if you're using scientific papers, then if it's just one paper, then again there's a natural question, why this one, why not the 20 others that Google Scholar gives? So be mindful that the references you have cover enough of the field and are used throughout the work meaningfully, and also that they are not extremely old. So if you're using only the books from 20 years ago, then maybe there's again this natural question like, aren't there any more modern citations or modern approaches to the field? So game design 30 years ago was probably quite different from game design 5 years ago. So be also critical about the publication times of your references. As mentioned, it affects your content score. So if you have too few references, too few supports, then your content is weaker, it's not supported enough, and your content score can fall. And again, I would emphasize that some of those references are low quality references. It doesn't mean that you shouldn't use them. Absolutely not. You should use them. You should cite those Wikipedia articles. You should cite those Stack Overflow posts that really helped you, that gave you a solution to, let's say, a technical problem. Or you should cite the documentation or some links or product websites. If you're citing different other games on the market, you should cite their Steam pages or the publisher's web page. Whatever it is, you should definitely have them. But remember that these do not count as basically your regular citations or your strong references. And with strong references, again, if all of your regular citations are just blog posts from professional, then that's also weak. So when you're finding the references, make sure that, well, again, you can have those blog posts, it's completely fine, or you can have those news sources, but you should also include some books or scientific papers or some more fundamental and more recognized bodies of knowledge. So the takeaway here is find solid references, and I would recommend you to find them early to be efficient. Because sometimes it happens that you do a lot of, let's say, practical work and you are already done like a lot of hours, and then you find some book that explains you that this thing needs to be done differently. Or you find some scientific paper that has already done pretty much the same thing that you are trying to do. So do that research early, see what's out there, see what people are talking about, see what is the best practices for, let's say, game design, so that you wouldn't do like a lot of the work already and then afterwards think, okay, but now I have to somehow put that work into the context of this game design theory, and then you wouldn't need to spend like a lot of the time reconning all of the work you have done. So find the references early, because these will guide your future work. And then make sure you have enough medium to high quality, and I emphasize the high quality references, because this is basically your content score. And I warmly recommend to use tools like Zotero to actually help you manage and use all those references that you find.